This session is about the role of information in proactive decision making, dissemination and action. And in chair we have Mr.PV Kumar. Welcome, sir. And the resource person is, we have already introduced him yesterday, we have heard him yesterday, Mr. Sagnic, Analyst, Institute of Terror Research and Response, Tel Aviv. Mr. P.V. Kumar, former chairman of National Technical Research Organization, NTRO, served in Hong Kong, Beijing, New York, also served in Kashmir and Northeast. At the risk of being repetitive, I would take a couple of highlights with Mr. Sagnic's CV. He has worked in security management departments of several international corporations post-2003 Iraq, during which he was responsible for companies' business activities in insecure areas of the country. After relocating to Israel, he worked as a research assistant and language instructor at the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle Eastern and African Studies in Tel Aviv before joining ITRR. Sagnic's main field of research and writing at ITRR included effects of ethnic and religious terror on urban life in major cities across the world, as well as counter-terrorism methods adopted by states. Sagnic's articles and personal interviews have been published in numerous newspapers, TVs, and journals in Iraq, Turkey, and Israel. He is fluent in English, yeah, we heard him yesterday, Kurdish, Turkish, Arabic, and has a high level of comprehension in Persian. Maybe a very small request out of curiosity. If out of place, please forgive me. If not, I would love to hear from you one or two sentences each about Kurdish, Turkish, and Arabic. How does it sound like? Because I don't think we get to we get to interact with a person like you who can speak so many languages. So interesting. If it's pertinent, please take it. Otherwise, please drop it like a hot potato. Over to chair. Thank you, sir.
I think this is going to be a very interesting session, and I feel that people who may come in later, or if they come after the session, they're going to miss some really interesting stuff. Just to add to what the introduction is, I just wanted to mention that this institute, which he mentioned, the International Terrorism Research and Response Institute, is an intelligence gathering organization that works for, within quotes, intelligence, information gathering organization that works for governments and several world leading corporations. Now, Ceng here is the head of the Middle East desk in the ITRR. And as already mentioned, he has worked in security management departments of several international corporations in post-Iraq 2003, and was involved in several successful security-related operations in Iraq. While his presentation would be, as he mentioned to me, limited to Israel and its security aspects, terrorism and how they responded quickly and successfully. I would mention that he is an expert not only on this aspect, and in the question answers, I think you could ask, since he's an expert on the Middle East, you could ask him questions on all Middle East related security intelligence type of scenarios or events which happened, and not just limited to Israel. I am very happy to be here with someone who can give you first-hand information on such interesting topics, and I'm sure you're going to have a very interesting session ahead. Thank you.
My talk today will be kind of a follow-up of what I talked about yesterday. Yesterday was more an academic approach to terrorism, urban terror, and its manifestations. Today, tomorrow. Today, I'd like to focus on how things are done in Israel, not because we are based in Israel, but because Israel is a successful example. Thank you. A lot can be said about what makes Israel successful when it comes to counterterrorism and when it comes to protecting the state. But for sure, no one would neglect what makes Israel and Israeli citizens secure is mostly owed to the intelligence, to various intelligence organizations, state groups in Israel. So this presentation will give you an outline how intelligence gathering has an impact on decision makers and how decisions, political decisions, made vis-a-vis intelligence gathering. Israeli citizens feel they have lived under siege since the creation of Israel in 1948, believing that if they lost even a single war, it would not only be the end of the state, but probably the end of the entire nation. The sense of being constantly under threat was the fundamental reason why security was so essential in the early days of Israel. Arguably, one could say that there is no longer a danger threatening Israel's existence. The claim is substantiated by the fact that Israel has grown strong in her own right, enjoys the friendship of powerful state players, has entered peace agreements with Egypt and Jordan, and has withdrawn from Lebanon. However, likewise, its existence has become more vulnerable due to the kind of weapons of mass destruction harbored by some of the states engaged in proxy wars with Israel. Yet, what is clear is that the threat has changed. And although the threat of terrorism might not be an existential threat, it is a concern that needs to be addressed. There seem to be two particular principles that enlighten how terrorism affects Israeli society today. And it also gives another dimension to Israel's counterterrorism strategy: the principles of strategic defense, operational offense, and the nation in arms. The realization of Israel's geographical limitations made the state base itself on a military doctrine that would prevent future full-scale wars from being fought on the Israeli soil, but instead transferred the fighting to the enemy's backyards. I would say two main reasons. First of all, intelligence is a diplomatic currency. Intelligence is what you can trade with other states and with other politicians. Intelligence gives the state of Israel a power that cannot be obtained very easily by others. And it gives a diplomatic environment, it gives a diplomatic network to engage in more and more trades of intelligence with other countries. The best example could be the relationship between Israel and Turkey until 2010, when 9 Turks were killed on board of a ship heading towards Gaza. But before that time, the exchange of intelligence as a diplomatic currency would be best summarized in Turkish-Israeli relations. Think of the Israeli Prime Minister today and the Iranian Prime Minister today. The Israeli Prime Minister has more information, more intelligence, and more intelligence in the other aspect of the word of the term than his Iranian counterpart, which is his rival. So, if you're Israel, if you're that small country with a with a strict geographical limitation, with a strict population limitation, having more intelligence and being more intelligent is one of the keys that against your rivals. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be glad to answer questions about Israel, Middle East, and other intelligence organizations and operations in the entire region. Thank you.
Before I open the floor for questions, I'd just like to add that that Mr. Ceng had given an excellent presentation and highlighted the importance of intelligence in handling terrorism, in tactical operations, and the importance of it can be seen by the success of the small Israeli state in handling all the terror activities against them. The Israeli siege mentality, which has translated into a nation in arms, has helped in actively securing their borders and the collection of intelligence internally or externally. The laws also have been made such as to help in curbing such activities. But I would like to emphasize also in this connection the importance of technology. While he had mentioned the so-called interesting James Bond type operations, the majority of intelligence collection is through technology and proper harvesting of information and proper mining of information. So this is a very important part of their collection system. And innovation in technology with regard to collection in sensors, information, has led to a major advantage that Israel possesses. In fact, their strategy of not allowing the terrorism to take place within the country but try to tackle it across the borders where the activity, the planning, and everything takes place is a different way of thinking than what we follow, and has been very successful. In fact, the firing of missiles, rockets, which have happened very often, and last year there was a major rocket attack from across the borders. It was their technology, the Iron Dome technology, which stopped it. In fact, 99% or some fantastic figure like that was the rate of success in stopping it. So the importance of technology, I just wanted to highlight that. The importance of technology in the intelligence information collection is of a very great importance. And this change of counterterrorism philosophy, which he alluded to, from eradication of terrorism to minimizing the effects of terrorism, is a very realistic policy, because you can't really eliminate it. And their attacks, targeted attacks or taking out of opponents selectively, which they follow, is also because of the sensors. They're able to track any information, any conversations, any thing where their drones are flying, they pick up the information and can accurately target the person they want, which even the Americans are following in Afghanistan, Pakistan, AFPAC border. So he mentioned about just intelligence, but intelligence also is not only the hard, so-called hard type intelligence, but the mining of open source information is a huge dimension of intelligence collection. It's not only internet or nowadays the social media networks like Facebook, etc. These are also fountains of information, and the technology collection from this can be done in real time and will be able to give you a overall picture through fusion. And that is what the Analyst, which he emphasized so much, talked about. He does is the fusion aspect of this collection. With just these words, I would open the floor for the questions. And as I mentioned earlier, the questions, though he gave the example of Israel and its security as the most successful example that he could give, but with his specialization in the Middle East, you could ask him questions on all the Middle East security concerned operations, and not limit it only to Israel. Thank you.